Our topic today is no bull. Yes, we are talking about mushrooms and fungi. It is from the Vegan Women's Summit. It was one of the topics. So, this is going to be our last day talking about some of the things that came up at the Vegan Women's Summit. And fungi was one of those topics. It's very interesting because there are a lot of different facets to mushrooms and fungi. And I will say that we use them for a meaty umami texture and flavoring in cooking. And there are more and more products that are coming out that are based on the mushroom and the mycelium, which is the basically like the root system of the mushroom or the fungi. And so we are using it more, but also there's some other interesting things that we will talk about as we go on in today's discussion. So we will get going as we are here, the daily energy bite, just talking about things that were part of the Vegan Women's Summit. All right. So this topic was called The Future of Fungi, and it was a panel discussion. For sure, there was Jill Ediger, which she is a sustainability expert. And there was Dr. Cole Marta, who is a psychiatrist. And I'm going to tell you, he gets into the area of the magic mushroom. So he'll get some on that. Stephanie Moyal is the founder of Troop Daily Functional Medicine. Oh, that says tummies. It's supposed to say gummies.
It's a live show. It's a live show.
Yeah, so the gummies, yeah, it's all about the gummies, and they have gummies for mushrooms. So I guess if you don't like your mushrooms, you can always have them in a gummy format. And then Phoebe McPherson is on a mission to help others heal with plant medicines, and one of those is mushrooms. So fungi actually is its own kingdom. When you look at, I don't know if you ever took that biology in school, and they talked about the kingdom, genus, and species, and all of those ways that they categorize the, I guess, living entities on the planet. But fungi is its own kingdom. It is not a plant. It is not an animal, nor is it a bacteria. Fungi include yeasts and molds and mushrooms. So that's kind of the grouping. So because it's not a plant, we usually think of it as a vegetable, but it is not. And one of the interesting facts that I learned when I was doing my raw food chef course is that we were doing raw foods, which meant that we were any preparation, any cooking that we were doing, the temperature was always under 115 degrees Fahrenheit, so that we would keep the enzymes and the nature of the food intact. Now, when you're talking about mushrooms, your culinary mushrooms, you want to cook them to release all of the beautiful nutritional aspects that they have. So whereas in the plant world, for our vegetables and fruits, there is a whole thing about keeping it intact and doing raw. The fungi is the opposite. With the mushrooms, you want to actually cook them before you eat them. So and you can eat them raw. By the way, you can eat them raw, and there is a camp that believe that you should eat the mushrooms raw as well. I've but I think there's a little bit of a divide there, but for sure, eating mushrooms cooked actually brings out some of their properties. So that's kind of interesting. And the first thing that they talked about was very interesting. And it's like, I didn't like, what are we talking about? So they started talking about cicadas. And apparently, the cicadas in the southern United States only come out every so often, like every, I don't know, 13 or 14 years. But it's like, why are you talking about like cicadas, which is I guess an insect? And the reason they were talking about them was because the fungi actually will, I guess, affect the cicadas and alter their behavior and their physical form, and that's really demonstrating how mushrooms are very powerful biological influence in our world. And so what they do is they actually basically infect the cicadas. And then when they kind of, it's almost like they grow on the cicadas and they manipulate their behavior and sometimes even their physical form. And so really what they were trying to highlight is the interaction about the whole ecological implications. And so some of these phenomena, like being forming part of the bug, is something that we might be able to use in our technologies. Now, I do know as well, if you different mushrooms, there are different medicinal mushrooms, and cordyceps is a medicinal mushroom where the fungi actually grow on caterpillars. And I don't want to get into any more than that. And I really am not an expert on that area, but I do know that that's their medium of growing is on caterpillars. And I think that they have a way to do it alternatively to caterpillars for the vegan people out there. But again, that's not really something we want to dive into here. It was just maybe a fun fact. I don't know. They're bugs. All right. Here's another fun fact. There is they can use mycelium, which is, like I said, the root system in urban renewal projects. And one of them that they talked about is a Cleveland project. And so what they're doing is they're taking abandoned homes and demolition waste and using that as the substrate for mycelium growth. And so the mycelium actually helps to sequester and get rid of the toxins. And so we end up with environmentally cleaner building materials and they actually are using the mycelium and they're actually making them into, I guess, this organic waste, which is coming from the mycelium sequestering the toxins, is actually used as a natural building material. And it's actually like like you could say it's like mushroom bricks to help within the actual construction. And so they have these sustainable bricks in new constructions on these sites. And so this is just a way of demonstrating the innovation that is being used for fungi in the urban sustainability. So I thought that was pretty cool. And so this is really a way of reducing our landfill waste, lowering carbon emissions, and cleansing our urban blight using natural processes, which is pretty cool. And so then we're going to talk about functional and psychedelic mushrooms. Let's get into the real meat of the mushroom here, the actual mushrooms. And so there are our functional mushrooms are ones that we would be using for health enhancement. So mushrooms are really good at boosting our immunity, and they're great for mental clarity. And then the psychedelic mushrooms are primarily used in mental health treatment for their mind altering properties. And so when you're talking about functional mushrooms, and they have, you can have your gourmet mushrooms and edible mushrooms. So there's the button or the white mushrooms and brown mushrooms, the cremini. They have the little baby portobello. And then there's things like oyster mushrooms and shiitake mushrooms. So for sure, when they're talking about gourmet mushrooms, that like the shiitake and the oyster are definitely in there. And again, they are really great for their medicinal properties and helping with mental clarity and immunity. Now, a little story. One of my friends, who is also my mentor for my raw food stuff, and her daughter was not quite 3 years old, had a serious accident and almost drowned. And they found her already blue and did CPR on her to keep her alive. And she spent quite a bit of time in the ICU and recovering. And her doctors had told her she was on epileptic seizure medicine because she was having brain seizures. So it was very serious, extremely touch and go at some points. And once she was well enough, one of the things that she really gave her as part of her health regime was really to nutrify her body and give her lots of nutrients. And she used mushrooms as one of the things that she gave her daughter every day. And so she actually used the medicinal mushrooms, which is basically boiling some of the mushrooms are not edible. Shiitake is, lion's mane. Oh, that's another one, which is edible. I hardly ever find them here in my area. But there's also mushrooms like chaga and turkey tail, which you don't eat, but they're kind of put into a powder form. And so if you don't like your mushrooms, you can always have the medicinal mushrooms in a powder, or I'm sure you could get them in a capsule format as well. So that way you can get them into your body. And so what she did is give her daughter, Indy, just a lot of good nourishing foods, including medicinal mushrooms. And I'm really pleased to say that against the odds and what the doctors were telling her, she has had 100% recovery, and including getting off all the medications that she had been on.
That's incredible.
Happened, yeah. So, and I'm pretty sure that they would attribute that to all of the nutrition that she got when she was going through all of that illness and recovering from the accident. And so then there's the other side, which is the psychedelic mushrooms. And I have no experience with these ones. But the reason the psychedelic part is that they contain psilocybin in them. And that we'll go on to our next slide. we'll talk about that. And so psilocybin is what has the potential for being able to treat people with depression. And so the psychiatrist, Dr. Hang on, what was, I think it's Dr. Cole, he is doing clinical trials on psilocybins and the mushrooms, the psychedelic mushrooms, for use in a clinical setting. They're not there yet where they can have them in the clinical setting. And he said it's going to be a few more years before they'll be available. They're still going through their trials and all of the different hoops they have to go through to get approvals. But what they're finding has really been really good news in their in what they've been studying. And they're finding that they can treat depression with these mushrooms, and they have lasting effects of up to 6 months, 3 to 6 months, from a single dose. And so this is actually something that they're really looking at, and is really different from the traditional, we call them SSRIs, which are the antidepressants. So they are something that could fundamentally change our approach to how we deal with mental health treatment. So that's something that they're working on, and I guess more to come in the next few years. But it sounds very promising on that end. And so then they also talked a little bit about some of the cultural and legal aspects of mushroom use. I mean, when you're talking about the psychedelic mushrooms. This is something where there is I guess a legal evolution that is happening. There are some state laws that are changing as a result of the psychedelic mushrooms. And also, so this will help with medical research and also from cultural perspective. So I think that they've had legal developments in Oregon and Colorado, but they didn't get into too much about what those were. And then they also talked about the cultural sensitivity and inclusivity in the use and study of these psychedelic and functional mushrooms. And especially, these are something that's been going on in the indigenous communities. And also, this could be an influence on the legal and cultural acceptance. So they talked a little bit about that part. And really, I think the whole deal on the mushrooms is that it's really encouraging that this is kind of becoming a new field. Looking at mushrooms and the fungi for our biotechnology, our medicine, and even in the urban planning to be able to use mushrooms. And so, who knows? What the future innovations will be around mushrooms and the fungi for sustainability, health, and they're even saying, well, maybe it'll even play a big part in climate change. But again, there's still more research that needs to be done. But who would have ever thought we'd have such versatility with fungi? And there's no bull in that. Any questions on what we talked about today? That's kind of all I had to say.
Yeah, I have a question. So,
Sure.
I've heard a lot about sea moss. I want to know if sea moss is a fungi or is it just some plant or something. I want to know if sea moss is part of the fungi family.
That's a good question. I will look that up because I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
Good one. I know that they use, sea moss, and there's, I know we use some Irish moss in some of they use that in some of the cooking, the desserts work that they do in the raw food area. But I'll check. I feel like it's,
Okay.
I feel like it's in the plant family, but I will double check for you.
All right. Okay.
Any other questions?
So there's a store that I occasionally go to called Wegmans, and they actually had a mushroom bar. And so just picture a area just devoted to mushrooms. I don't know if it's still there. I haven't been there in a couple of months, but they look so beautiful. They almost reminded me of like coral reefs, like some of
Yeah.
the mushrooms, the way they. So would I cook them the same way that I cook my portobello mushrooms?
Yeah, I would double check because I know I'm used to cooking portobello and the regular white and brown mushrooms, the
Uh-huh.
cremini. And I know I did buy lion's mane mushrooms once. I only found them once, and I think it's probably good to. I I feel like you can cook them all the same way, but I know with the lion's mane they were a bit different. So it depends on the mushroom that you're getting. I would do a little bit of Google search and kind of find out how to cook them just to be sure. But most of them are you cook the same way. But like I said, the lion's mane was not that much different, but it was a little bit different how I was cooking them. But you're
Okay.
making me hungry because, oh my gosh, I love mushrooms. I would love to go somewhere where they have a mushroom bar like that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too because in my family growing up, we would have mushrooms like for Christmas and Easter and any Thanksgiving. And I remember saying to my mom, they're so easy to make. Why don't we have them more often? And she's like, I don't know. They're just so special. They were just so special that's I guess having them a couple times a week makes them less special, but they're just so. And I remember going mushroom hunting with my grandma, and so for me, I really I enjoy mushrooms, but I know some people can't get past the fungus part.
Yeah, I know. I do have friends that don't like mushrooms because of the texture, especially.
Mm.
And one of my kids doesn't really care for them, but she's been eating them. And if we prepare them, like make them, cut them up, chop them up smaller, she's better with it. If I just leave them, on the bigger side, she doesn't like it.
Mm.
So definitely the texture is something that some people don't like. Um, I know when I was growing up, we didn't have a lot of fresh mushrooms. I remember getting button mushrooms in the can. That's what we had. But if mushrooms are still special, and really, it's something that you might want to think. There is some of the plant-based people that are with the experts would recommend having mushrooms every day. So you can definitely eat them every day. And if you don't want to eat them every day, or you don't want to cook them, then you could look at doing a mushroom powder of some sort. So I buy one that's like a 5 mushroom powder, and even my dogs are getting mushroom powder every day. Yeah, so they're getting their mushrooms every day, and sometimes I'll give it to them cooked because they actually like them, which I was shocked, but they do like them.
I
Uh,
think they see you eating them and they want whatever you eat.
yeah, well, they don't like a lettuce, right? They definitely will spit that out, but they're pretty good with their veggies. They love their veggies. And I love hearing when they crunch them because the veggies usually crunch when they eat them. It's so cute. Anyway, enough of that. So you can get your daily mushrooms, And if you don't like mushrooms, there are other ways to get your mushrooms, like medicinal mushrooms. And I think you can buy that in, the health food stores or some of the grocery stores that have more like a health food area. A lot of times they'll have some medicinal mushrooms there. And I think you can, like reishi, chaga, lion's mane is also used. There's the cordyceps. And I want to say what other one is it, but can't remember. There's a bunch of different ones, and we will do a topic on mushrooms for ourselves and learn more about mushrooms in another show or two. All right, so that's everything for today. We're back live tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time and hope to see you there. So bye for now.